Eric, thank you for joining us. More for on this is Michael J. Moore. He's a former U.S. attorney for the Middle District of Georgia and a current partner at Pope McGlamry. David Bruno, also with as a defense and trial attorney and a former prosecutor. And I'm going to start with you, Michael. Does this new video change the way this is argued, the pursuit of justice, or does it change anything?
It really has no impact at all on the ultimate outcome of the shooting. There's some question of whether or not this man, and we believe it's probably Mr. Arbery, let's say that it was, he may have been looking around a construction site. Well, he's not seen or reported to have been seen by the McMichaels carrying a drill set, a toolbox, a nail gun, anything that you might think of at a construction site, not even seen breaking into place. But he's just seen running down the road. And they decide at that point that they're going to make a little homegrown posse, and they got in their truck and grabbed loaded guns and went off, chased him down the street. And that's ultimately what led there to where we're at, to this tragic shooting. And he was confronted by a man with a loaded shotgun in the middle of the road. He tried to protect himself and ended up being the victim here in what can only be called a modern-day lynching, I think. I mean, it's inexcusable, and this new video has no bearing whatsoever. They've tried to argue they were making a citizen's arrest. Well, a citizen's arrest requires some immediacy or being in the presence of some felony act like a purse snatching where you detain the assaulter of the 80-year-old lady on the ground. You can hold the suspect till the police get there. That's what it's meant. Stop a rape. It's not meant to play wide earp and run down the street with a shotgun and a .357 pistol.
So, David, let's talk about that original cell phone video of the killing that went viral. Is it even more crucial to this case, especially in light of this new grainy video that's been released that, according to Michael, shows no crime being committed?
The previously disclosed video is critical to the government's case. I mean, most will take this case and look and compare it to the Trayvon Martin case, but the Trayvon Martin case did not have a video of the actual killing. Here, there is. And that will lock the defendants into a version that really is on video and the jury can see for themselves. With the recent video, I actually think it helps the government's case, because if these defendants are going to rely on a civilian arrest, well, this video, in part at least, shows what they would be saying they were arresting him for. And there's no crime committed in that grainy video, and that's the position of the victim and the victim's family. So I think that both videos support the government's case.
So, Michael, finally, the father and son, they've been charged with murder, aggravated assault. However, because of the coronavirus pandemic, as you well know, Georgia cases or courts are prohibited from impaneling any grand jury or trial through at least June 2nd. So what should happen to Gregory McMichael and his son Travis McMichael until then?
My guess is they'll be detained in jail and denied bond. I mean, they essentially have gained the status of murder defendants in the county jail, and that's where they should be held. You know, the grand jury process, there's a period of time that any prosecutor has to bring a case before a grand jury. I think that'll be done in this case. I think there'll be time to do that. I think at that point you'll see the case indicted. What I hope happens in the meantime is that there's a real review about what happened to delay the arrest. And I'm particularly concerned with officials who may have had knowledge about this tape and done nothing. These kinds of circumstances and what we see in that tape, when you see that, I would just tell you that inaction is never acceptable. And I hope that not only are we talking about the McMichael case, but that we talk about other officials who may have been involved in either delaying or hiding evidence, willfully ignoring evidence that clearly show that Mr. Arbery was unjustifiably gunned down in the street.
I was going to ask you about that. Give me a short answer because I want to get David in before we close. But what about that? So there's potential legal liability on the part of some of the people that you just referenced. And if that goes to a court of law, where does it go? Because it can't be tried in that jurisdiction.
Well, you may have a question that brings in the federal prosecutor at this point, whether there's been some violation of oath of office, some public corruption out there, those things, a civil rights violation, those things would bring in a federal investigation and might very well result in this. But you're going to have to clean out anybody who was involved in the cover-up, if that's in fact what we find. You know, when you clean out the barn, unless you clean out every stall, it doesn't really matter, and it still has that foul odor. And that's what I think you've got to do here, is really start at the top and look for anybody who may have tried to block an arrest or a charge as some kind of favoritism or police cover-up or whatever the case might be.
So, David, I bring you back in now. What about the guy who took the video? William, they call him Roddy, Brian. His attorney says he was an observer. He was an observer or a participant, and are both criminal.
Well, if he's an observer, I mean, I would think that the government's going to need him more than they'd want to prosecute him. And that's a decision that prosecutors have to make. When you have witnesses who border potential suspects, you want to take a look at the value and what information they possibly could have. It may not just be the video. If he knows anything else about some statements that these individuals made or actions that they took, that could be relevant as well. But I've seen press accounts from this individual's lawyer saying that he had nothing to do with this. And like the two defendants, that person has constitutional rights and it has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
We have to leave it there, gentlemen. David Bruno, Michael Moore, thank you very much. Take care.
Great to be with you.
Pleasure, Arthel. Have a great day.